Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mom Era podcast. My name is Megan.
And I'm Alyssa, and we have Rachel with us. She is one of my long term friends from high school, and she's here to help share her journey with infertility and her birth story. We're super excited to have you on, Rachel. I know just to even reconnect with you and listen to your story and share it with other people, because I think also even relating to someone that did struggle with infertility and overcame it and had a beautiful baby. So you have a handsome son of your own, and we're excited to have you help us normalize the birthing process too.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I think we will dive right in to all of the exciting stuff we will share today. Rachel, let's start with your TTC journey and kind of what that looked like and what helped you overcome it.
Okay, so a little backstory to start. Me and my husband met when we were in fifth grade, so
Wow.
it's been a long time. We were literally 10 years old in 2005. That's when we met. That's when we started liking each other. So we both had like a little crush on each other
That is so
back in
cute.
elementary school.
So
And
cute.
then we got married in March of 2018, and we've been married for 6 years. So while trying to conceive, it took us a long time. It took us 4 years to have a baby.
Mm. Oh my gosh.
So 2.5 years into trying, we found out that Spencer had low sperm count and low sperm motility, which means that he has slow swimmers.
Mm-hmm.
Once we found that out, it was kind of like, okay, what do we do from here? We don't know anybody with infertility issues. So we didn't really know where to go at that point. So when year 3 was approaching, we reached out to a fertility clinic. Infertility was never talked about with us. Like I said, nobody knew or was struggling having a baby at the time, that I knew of at least. My friend Lauren Holcomb, actually, she was the one that was like, hey, I'm struggling having a baby, actually, and I'm going to this fertility clinic. Why don't you try and see if they'll help you?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
we ended up going there. We obviously had to do lots of blood work, lots of semen analyses, the works. But in 3 months, we did an IUI and we got pregnant the first try.
Wow.
Oh, that's so
So
exciting.
with the first try of the IUI, we didn't think we were going to get pregnant
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because with IUI, which is intrauterine insemination, so it's essentially where they stick a catheter inside and the sperm travels inside and goes right to your uterus, I believe it is. I get them mixed up.
They
Uterus
Yeah,
and
like
no, I
cervix.
place
think
it
so.
right there, don't they? They like place the sperm so it doesn't have to
Yeah, like
travel very
super
far.
close so that they can
Yeah.
attach to the follicle or egg. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So with our first cycle, we had less than 1 million sperm, which is not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
My dog, actually, my childhood dog, passed away a few days before our first IUI. So I was like in a whole slew of emotions. I didn't know what to expect. The fertility clinic was on the phone with us while we were at breakfast waiting for them to wash the sample. And they're like, do you still want to try? It's really low. We don't know if it's going to work. And I'm like, you know what? If there's a shot, I'll do
Yeah.
anything. I've already paid all this money to try and have a baby. I might as well just try.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, and it was successful. And now we have an almost 2.5 year old.
Congrats.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Now,
Yeah.
as far as like my pregnancy goes with him, it was easy.
Wait, can I pause and
Yeah,
ask you some
absolutely.
questions about infertility? Okay, so at the point and stage of where you were like, okay, we're gonna go and see this fertility doctor and kind of see what's next. Did you have any fear at that point? Because I feel like you're ready to do whatever it means to have this baby, but
Yeah,
also other people aren't going through this. And it's so scary to be like, okay, this is what I have to go through. It's so unknown. You don't know what you're doing. And it's just a
right.
different, I guess, acknowledgement you have to accept.
So jumping into like the fertility clinic and finding out what infertility was and all of the aspects of infertility. So at my initial appointment, I went after I did all the blood work and everything, and they went over the blood work with me and the semen analysis. They actually told me that I was not a candidate for IUI right off the bat because of Spencer.
Really?
I am actually like considered normal, they say, but he's got 2 factors going against him. So when they were going over the blood work and everything, they said, you're actually a candidate for IVF. And at that point, I knew how expensive it was. I like instantly broke down in tears because I didn't know what to expect. I know there's a lot of injections and you have to be very precise and it gets crazy, you know? So that's kind of where I was at. I was internally freaking out and I was like, well, why can't we do the IUI? So they're like, well, you know what? Let's try the IUI and we'll kind of see how it goes. And well, lo and behold,
Yeah.
So you pushed for
we
it.
have a case in.
Yeah, and you saved yourself so much money.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Like so amazing that it happened on the first time, especially when they're telling you like, "Hey, this is probably not a possibility." You're like, "Well,
Right.
let me defy the odds here."
Yeah, which we were shocked to begin with that it even worked on the first try. I mean, I told Spencer going into this, we may not get pregnant on the first try. Sometimes it takes multiple rounds of IUI or IVF to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I was given we have male factor infertility too. And I was given the same like, hey, because of the sperm count, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot do IUI. Like IVF is your route. And I
Yep.
did the same thing, broke down in tears, and I was like, what? Probably could have advocated for myself a little bit more in terms of like IUI, but I was in a situation where I had IVF coverage at the time through my
Oh,
work.
nice.
So that was just kind of like, okay, if that's the best chance, then we'll go forward with that.
Right.
So yeah,
Mhm.
it's a big like IUI is still a lot to even go through,
Yes.
including on top of IVF, IUI, IVF. But like it's when you get that like, hey, this is what you're gonna have to do to have a kid. It's a lot emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, you have the routine blood work, you have constant follicle checks. Once you find a follicle from all the medication that you have been taking, then they do a trigger injection. And then it's like, okay, now wait 2 weeks and we'll find out if you're pregnant.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 2-week wait
Yeah,
still.
right.
we hate the 2 week
We
wait.
do.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh man. I want to know because obviously, I mean, my journey was much different. I didn't struggle with infertility, but there was a moment there where me and my husband were like, is there something wrong?
Hmm.
What ended up happening for me is I just really needed to like focus and hone in on my cycles, and we ended up getting pregnant that way naturally. But did you have any support systems? Did you reach out to family? Was this something you shared, or did you tend to like keep that inside? Like, how did you manage that piece?
So I didn't really have a whole lot of support when it came to the infertility process because no one I knew struggled with infertility.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that I knew struggled was my friend Lauren. So at the time, she kind of walked me through the steps, like what we had to do, that kind of thing. But she actually did not do IUI or IVF. Hers was a natural, but with medication.
Hmm.
Oh.
So when I told her I had to either do IUI or IVF, she was like, well, I know nothing about that. I, I can't help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling my parents at one point that we were going to go see fertility specialists and kind of go through the motions and see what they had to say because we really wanted to start our family and have a baby at that point. It's been almost 4 years into our marriage, and we didn't want to wait any longer. So, yeah, I didn't really have a whole lot of support because they didn't know what was going on and what was it going to entail and how much it was going to cost us.
You know
Hmm.
what I wish they would do? Like when you go to those, maybe they do, you both tell me. But like you go to those places, I imagine there's like a support group, like are people going through the same thing that you could like lean on? I know when I got pregnant, I was given so many different like support groups I could join from the hospital I was going to, which I thought was interesting. But they should do that for infertility.
The clinic that I had Kason at, or I got pregnant with him, they were very, I would say, standoffish. I mean, infertility alone is hard, and to like kind of go into it, like obviously you and your partner are in it, but like to not be able to talk about it, not to be able to be
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you're going through the same thing I'm going through.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a lot of emotions, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, we're going through we're trying to go for a second baby right now. We did another IUI. They do 2 back-to-back IUIs with their cycles, which
Oh.
is really, really nice.
Yeah.
So you have an IUI with the trigger one day, and then you do another IUI back to back. So you kind of
Oh.
like increase your chances of having another baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm currently in the 2-week wait.
Oh my gosh, the horrible 2-week wait.
I know. Well,
Yes,
what is it? Baby dust. Is that
baby dust. There you go.
Yeah, sending fingers crossed, baby dust.
Yeah, I'll know July 1st.
I just wanted to mention for like the support piece because I feel like it can be difficult. Alyssa, I feel like you kind of lived through this where there's that piece where you want to have this, I want to say, quote unquote, like normal pregnancy where you get to announce your pregnancy to your family and it's a surprise. But when you're going through this process, sometimes you're weighing the options between do I want the support now or do I want to be able to have that like natural surprise for my family later?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we went through that with our first pregnancy. It was hard because my mom knew that I was going through the infertility journey and doing all these things, and so it was timed, you know. So you couldn't really surprise. Well, I still surprised because I told her that I was doing blood work on a different day than what I was actually doing blood work. So you still got the initial like, "Hey, do you know?" And then I
Yeah.
did like the announcement a few days later, like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm pregnant." And I did the same thing with my husband as well.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
cute.
that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I felt like I literally the day I found out I got the call, I had told my mom. She was like waiting for the call from me, and then I didn't call her on purpose because I wanted her to like think, like get nervous or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You were killing me. I thought something was wrong," and blah blah blah. And then I told her, "Yeah, it worked." But yeah, no, I struggle with mentally like wanting to have that surprise, wanting it to be like that natural thing that happens,
Right.
and yeah, not having to go through all this just to have a baby.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Okay, so what would you say was the most eye-opening thing to you on your fertility journey?
Um it was, I would say, like the support groups. There's no support really in the infertility journey that we've gone through. Yes, now that going through infertility for a second time to try have another baby, it's gotten a little bit better because I know a little bit more people that have struggled with infertility. So I can be like, hey, how's this going? Or, you know, can you help me with this? We're struggling with going through, our 2-week wait. And it's, some of that stuff is hard. Yeah, there's a
Hmm.
lot of emotion behind it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share about infertility? Because you started to talk about your pregnancy, and I am kind of curious, like how your pregnancy went. You said you had an easy pregnancy.
I did have a very easy pregnancy up until the end. And then
Until the
that's when
birth.
things got hectic a little bit.
Yeah. What got hectic?
Well, so the pregnancy journey I had was pretty easy. Pretty smooth sailing up until I was about 30 weeks pregnant.
Hmm.
And I had some like decreased like fetal movement. So they're like, you need to go to labor and delivery. So I'm like, okay, well, just like check out, make sure everything's okay. So I went in, and around my 30 weeks, I found out I had gestational hypertension,
Oh no.
which is high blood pressure when you're pregnant.
Yep, caused by
Um,
the placenta.
well, come to find out, it was not the placenta. It was just my body in like haywire,
Oh no.
which was, yeah,
Oh
it was
gosh.
a whole mess. I found out that I had some high blood pressure issues. So they put me on medication, and they're like, hey, you need to come back, monitor your blood pressure at home. And if it gets 140 over 90s, you need to come back. So I'm like, okay. There was a few times in between that I had to go back. And then I also, because I had the high blood pressure, I was induced.
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah.
So that
Yep.
was, I've heard nothing but horror stories about being induced. Like, it's horrible, Pitocin's horrible, you don't want to go through induction. And it's like, okay. I don't have a choice. I have to
Yeah.
do this. So I was induced. I was at 37 weeks and 2 days. Throughout my whole pregnancy, Kason was a larger baby, they called. He was measuring always like 2 weeks ahead. They weren't concerned about like his weight or anything like that. But just prior to me being induced, I had COVID.
Oh,
Oh gosh.
no.
Uh-huh. So I didn't get to go to like my last like OB appointment to check, make sure everything was going on. I had like non-stress tests twice a week at this point because of the high blood pressure thing. So when I had COVID, obviously you can't go. COVID was still a thing, when I was pregnant,
Yeah.
because this was
Yeah.
in 2021, December of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
which seems so long ago. So long ago. But COVID was still a big thing, and you couldn't go anywhere or do all these things. So it was really hard to not be able to like do the end part of my pregnancy
Mm-hmm.
with
Hmm.
my doctors. So that was really
Especially
hard.
as your first, because as your first, you're like, I want to know what's going on, what I'm going through for the first time, and everything about the baby before I go into like labor.
Right.
Yeah.
So like my last doctor's appointment, you could say, was just prior to me having COVID for my Group B strep test. And I was also positive for Group B strep as well. So there was just a whole slew of issues towards the end of my pregnancy. So I was
Mm-hmm.
induced at 37 weeks and 2 days, which is January 13th of 22. So I was induced in the bright early hours of the morning, 6 a.m. I had to be at the hospital. So that was
So
wonderful.
you had it scheduled, so you knew when you went
Yes.
in. Okay, so
Yeah.
you got to like eat
Yeah, I
beforehand.
ate and then I threw up.
Oh no.
Oh gosh.
Because I think I was so nervous, and whatever I was eating, Kason was like, I don't like this, we're throwing it away. So, I ate, but then it was gone.
Okay.
So, I think it was just like I was nervous. I didn't know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect. But yeah, I was induced at 6 a.m. So you went into like labor and delivery, and you like signed in with everybody, and they get you a room with your IV and everything. And
Yep,
because I had Group B, I don't know if you guys did.
I did. Yeah.
So they give you like the extra bag of like antibiotics,
Yep.
that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And then they checked me rather early on. Obviously, I was 37 weeks pregnant. I was at 0. And they insisted to check me and check me. And I was like, guys, I'm at 37 weeks. I'm not progressing, I promise. Like I knew, you
And
know.
that hurt, didn't it, when they checked?
Oh yes. Oh yes. My husband actually looked at me at one point when after they did the check and goes, I don't know if I can do this again. I can't see you in that much pain again. Because I think
And
it hurt more than me actually having the baby.
yeah, that hurt really bad for me too. And I ended up getting, I don't know if they offered this to you, but it was like, I don't know if it was, it was like nitrous gas or something that you would
No.
just, yeah. So anytime they had to do a check, because it was like, it only lasted for as long as you were like breathing it in. So I
Yeah.
would breathe it in every time that they were doing the check and I wouldn't feel a thing. And it was amazing because I could not stand that pain. That was terrible.
Oh. I hope that when I get pregnant with the next baby that I have the option of nitrous. I really would like to try it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um
didn't get that option either.
yeah. Obviously they do things a little differently depending on the hospital that you're at. So but yeah, I wasn't progressing at all. About 1:30 in the morning on January 14th, I had my epidural. And at that point I was only 3 centimeters dilated.
Hmm.
Mm.
So from 6 a.m. to 1:30 in the morning, I had only progressed to a 3, which
Dang.
which
Did
was
you?
crazy. I didn't know how long things take. You don't know.
Yeah. Did they end up doing like the Foley balloon or anything with you
Yeah, so I
between
did
those
have the
periods?
Foley balloon,
Yeah.
yes. And people told me horrible things about that, and I didn't have a problem with mine at all.
Oh,
Okay, I didn't feel mine at all either.
I
Right.
Megan.
had a huge problem with mine.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm. Everybody's different though.
It's just crazy. Like,
Hmm.
I've heard
Yes.
nothing about horror stories about the Foley balloon too, and I'm like, oh, like, when they told me about putting it, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, mine was bad.
I did have the Foley balloon for a while.
Yeah.
And then, so 1:30, I got the epidural. I was only a 3. So they're like, oh, once you get the epidural, you can like sleep it off a little bit. Well, you can only sleep so much in a hospital because
Yeah.
they're constantly checking you and coming in,
Hmm.
hey, taking your vitals, whatever they're doing.
Hmm.
And I had high blood pressure, so I had these things on my arm. Well, before I gave birth, I had the blood pressure cuff. It would come off 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes, it would go off.
Oh
Yeah.
my word.
I had that too, actually. They hooked me up to the blood pressure
I'm
the whole
like,
time.
dude, you
Hmm.
can't sleep like that.
Yeah, it
At one
hurts.
point, I got so angry, I ripped it off.
Pretty sure my arm was bruised after because it
See?
was literally on the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, I ripped mine off. I got mad. So,
Did you guys have to have the oxygen thing on your finger?
I don't
no.
remember. I don't think
No? Oh
so.
my god, that made me so mad because I just didn't want to have this thing on my finger. And I just kept trying to take it off. They're like, no, you need to keep it on. I'm like,
Really?
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I didn't have. They did it like in the, when they did vitals and stuff, but that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
I would rather have the oxygen thing than the arm blood
oh
pressure
my
thing,
God.
but still, I didn't like this thing on my finger.
Yeah, well, because I had the high blood pressure, I had to keep it on, to monitor.
Yeah, yeah.
I was so sick of it. I'm like, as soon as I got that epidural, at one point, I threw it off. I'm like, I'm done with this. The nurse came in and was like, you need to keep this on. And I'm like, okay. So they put it back on, and I'm like, I, at one point, unplugged it from the machine
Oh my gosh.
because I was so sick and tired of it going off when I'm just trying to, like, take a 10-minute nap.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the frustrating part. Come to, like, the wee hours of the morning. I still had the epidural. I progressed a little bit more. I think I was at a 4 or a 5 at this point. I think it was like around 8 a.m. I was a 4 or a 5, which I was like, okay, we're getting there, but we're not
Yeah.
like progressing how we should. So come to like around noon on the 14th. They were checking me. They had come in to check me, and they're like, you know what? Baby's now starting to have D cells.
Oh,
We're
of
going to
course.
need to do a C section. You're only at a
Was
6.
was your water broken at this point?
Yeah, so my water was broken. It was in, I want to say, going back, let's see. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 in the morning they broke my water. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So they broke it. It didn't break on its own.
It did not. They had to break it, which was the weirdest feeling. I
Did you have
Did
a
didn't
it?
know what
gush?
to expect. So I'm like waiting for like the gush, you know?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, anytime, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, like a waterfall.
Yeah. That's how mine was too. It just like kept coming and I could like
Yeah.
hear it
And I'm like,
as they
okay,
were
I feel like
catching
I'm
it.
peeing myself. Can we stop this now? And they like put all those like bed sheet pans under, or like
Uh-huh.
the little pieces of whatever they are, like puppy pads underneath you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So yeah, my water broke about between 3 and 4 in the morning. So
Okay.
by noon, I had only progressed to a 6. They're
Mhm.
like, baby's now having D cells because of the Pitocin. We're gonna have to take you for a C-section.
Ugh.
So I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? When I was about 8 weeks pregnant with him, I knew, I just like had an intuition, like this is gonna be a C-section baby. Like I just know.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, I did have a C-section. He was born at 12:57, and he was 6 pounds 14 ounces.
Your big baby was six
Yeah.
Yeah.
pounds.
Well, I was 3 weeks early too. So can you imagine if I went any longer?
Yeah.
Holy
Oh
cow!
yeah. Oh my
Holy
god.
cow! So yeah, he
Yeah.
was 6 pounds 14 ounces. He was actually, I didn't get to see him for a while because I had COVID prior to this, like 2 weeks
Oh.
exactly prior.
So they
So
kept you from the baby? Did they think you were still
yeah,
contagious, possibly?
yeah, yes.
Oh.
So they took
Oh
him to
my.
NICU. He had trouble breathing when he first came out. Well, obviously he's 3 weeks early. Like
Mhm.
it's very possible for them to have like troubles breathing when they're
Yeah.
a couple weeks early. So they
Plus,
took
when
him
you have
to,
a C-section, they don't get that like mucus kind
right,
of pushed out of them also.
right, exactly. So they took him to NICU, and he was there for 3 or 4 days,
Oh, wow.
and they didn't let me see him for 7 hours after I delivered him,
Oh my
and
gosh, I would have been so mad.
I was in like rage because I had just had this baby. He's in the NICU, and they won't let me go see him because they think it's COVID related.
Ugh.
Mm,
I would have lost my mind.
I
seriously.
did. Every person that walked into my room, I was not very nice to. I'm like, I haven't seen my baby. They're like, oh, how are you? How's your pain? I'm like, I just want to see my baby that I just
Mhm.
had. So eventually, after fighting with people, 6 to 7 hours later, my OB came in and was like, don't let them tell you it's COVID related because it's not. I'll find a way to let you see the baby. So I'm like, okay. So the initial seeing of him, he was like, obviously, he's got a CPAP machine on. He's got like all the wires. It was just a very scary moment. You know, you just gave birth to this baby, and now you're being told that he's got breathing issues, and it was so hard to like, you know, my husband was so scared to like hold him because of all the stuff that was connected to him, and it was just very hard at that time. Like, you just gave birth to this new baby, and he's connected to all these things.
Well, and emotionally, you're like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
I was pregnant, and then now I'm not pregnant, and
yeah.
I'm just like, woo, and then I need my baby, and you can't see your baby. Oh gosh, yeah, that's a lot.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. So the first time seeing him, we had to be like all gowned up. We had to have mask, hairnet, like the works, because they still thought it was COVID related. So I spent as much time there as I possibly could, because I'm like, what am I gonna do? Go sit in my room and just be like, you know, sad about it? No, I want
Yeah.
to be with my baby. You know, I tried to be there as long as I could, and then I would go back into the room and like have something to eat, maybe take a little nap, and then I'd go right back. Now, when having a C-section, you got to be very careful with a lot of things because your stomach was literally just like ripped open.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Megan, you had a C-section as well,
I did, yeah.
so you know about like the staples and all the fun stuff,
Yeah.
and you have to be very careful with doing all those things. So obviously, just having a C-section, going to the bathroom, walking anywhere is very like painful. Even with a natural birth, I'm assuming, is very painful after.
I feel like, yeah, I had a lot of issues like sitting on my tailbone after.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't sit like straight up and down. I had to be sitting on my side. Yeah, I didn't really have control of my bladder afterwards. So that was
I
really
believe
weird.
that. I believe
That
that.
was really weird. But yeah, I'm sure you both were in a lot more pain than I was, like immediately.
But like my recovery process of like the actual C-section was wonderful. I really
Mhm.
did not have any issues. They had like this little, I don't, it's called a dressing, I think, but it's like where they essentially like, it's like a piece of tape under the staple or right above the staples, and they had like a drain almost, and it was like had a little button. Megan, did you have something like that? Okay, you're
I
giving
don't
me the
remember
face.
that.
But did you have like a dressing?
Yeah, yeah. I remember having to take it off when we got home after a certain period of time.
Okay, so whatever they gave me was the dressing, but like I had like a tube connected to it with a little box, and I
Uh-huh.
had like buttons on it. I kid you not. This is gonna sound so weird. So I had like this little box, and like it couldn't get wet or anything, so I had to like detach it when I like showered and like all this crazy stuff. And I think it was
Uh-huh.
like for more of like in case there was an infection, it was an
Oh.
easier way to like maintain it.
So it was like antibiotics that administered or something
No, it
or
there was nothing like actually in the tubing or anything. It was just like I don't. I'll have to find a picture of it and show it to
yeah, I'm
you
gonna have to
guys
like look this up.
because it literally was just like this white little box connected to this dressing, and it was just there. But like if the battery like died, it would like go off like crazy. And
Oh.
so like you had to get a new battery and like all this stuff. But I think it was just for like to keep everything sterile so nothing would like get into the incision and the
Yeah.
staples, that kind of stuff. What the actual box thing was for, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you what it was.
So
Did you press any
interesting.
of the buttons or no?
Oh yeah, because I'm curious. I don't know what these are. So there was one button. I'm like, okay, and one was to reset the battery. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's essential. And then the other one, I guess, was to turn it off.
Oh,
What it
okay.
was actually doing, I don't know. I have no idea.
Weird. Very
But
weird,
like
yeah.
having a C-section, you have lots of staples and fun things, and
Mhm.
I always had a pillow with me, like in front of my stomach, to like just brace myself because like laughing, sneezing,
Sneezing.
coughing, anything that you did, it hurt so bad.
Did you get one of
Um,
those wraps where you could like
yes,
wrap?
I did get a
Okay.
like a belly wrap. Yeah,
Yeah, that
so
helped
that
me.
worked for a little while, and then obviously like pants, wearing pants or shorts or whatever you were wearing, it was hard because you had to like pull them up because if they like rubbed,
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah. So I had to get like these like high-waisted sweatpants so that it was like comfortable, but it wasn't going to rub my incision.
I had to do that for the underwear. The underwear was the big thing
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. And even to this day, like sometimes I get like this, it's not, I wouldn't say pain, but it's like a weird feeling. Like you can almost tell where the incision is.
I wonder if
And
it's
it kind
scar
of like
tissue.
irritates it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But also, fun fact, when they do ultrasounds on you after you have the baby, they can actually see your C section incision from the inside,
Really?
which is
Oh my
so crazy
god.
to me.
Oh.
I actually got to see it on ultrasound.
Oh, weird. I wonder if I'll be able to see it with number two.
Yeah, it was crazy. They're like, "Oh, there's your C-section scar." I'm like, "What? What do you
So
mean?"
Like
strange.
they just see the
Yeah.
line from the inside?
Yeah, it's like kind of like a line, but it's a little thicker. It literally looks just like a strip.
Weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, and obviously when have another one, I'll have another C-section. I don't know, Megan, if that's what you're planning on doing, or you're going to do a VBAC.
I want to try a VBAC. I want to try
Yeah.
it. Yeah, but if it leads to C-section, I had a much different recovery than you, and I think I was in my head about it a lot because getting to the C-section point like really broke me. But I do want to try a natural VBAC.
Okay.
I want to try it, but we'll see. There's so many things
Hey.
outside of my control. So.
Yeah, right. A lot of people do the VBAC after the C-section, and I've heard great things about it.
Hmm.
So I will be a C-section girly through and through. I had no problems with my C-section. I was,
Hmm.
you know, when the next one comes, it'll be scheduled. It'll be
Yeah.
easy this time.
Yeah.
I'll go in, have the baby, and we'll be done. So I'm okay with that because
Yeah.
with having a little one already, it's way easier to plan things.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for
So I
sure.
can be like, hey, mom and dad, I need you to watch him because I'm going to go have a baby this day. you
Instead of
know?
like, hey, I'm in labor and I gotta go.
Right. It's like 2 a.m. Hey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
Very
sure.
different.
But that's a crazy birth story. I am always in disbelief because when I talk to a majority of my friends, they all had crazy birth stories. I think the one person I've talked to so far that had like a just a beautiful birth story was Kayla,
I
your
was just going to
sister.
say her sister,
Yeah, what?
like, very normal. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
I know. I know. But we're happy that he's here and he's healthy.
He is very
And
much healthy. Now, once I had him, I was not interested in breastfeeding. I know some people are like sometimes on the fence about it. I was just never like, yes, this is what I want to do.
yeah.
I was always like, I don't want to be a human pacifier. Like, I was just very like straight to the point. We're just gonna do formula.
Yeah.
So when he was in NICU, it was easier because I didn't have to pump or anything like that. Once we got out of the hospital, that's when we had issues
Oh no.
because he was on the ready to feed formula, which is all liquid, and
Yeah.
then you go to powder, which is a very different consistency,
Mm.
and the milk is completely different. Kason had acid reflux.
Oh.
Now it was a mild case of acid reflux, but it's like you had to be very careful of like how he ate, when he ate, how to sit him up properly so that he didn't throw up all his milk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. On top of
Yeah, a
like trying
little.
to make sure they're fed every 2 hours and then
Yeah. After I had him, not too long after, there was the formula shortage.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that.
So, with the formula shortage, put in a whole new perspective for me where I literally went to the store and the shelves were bare.
Yeah.
And as a new mom, you're freaking out because you don't know how or if you're going to be able to find formula for your baby that has, the acid reflux because we had to get the gentle formula. So he couldn't just be on a regular formula.
Right.
So that was definitely a struggle for quite a few months trying to find formula. I had coworkers buying formula for me, my parents, Spencer's parents. Anytime that they could find anything remotely close to what we were giving him, they were buying it because we didn't know when we were going to get it.
Yeah, stack that
Yeah.
up.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And that's hard too because when your child's on formula, you don't want to switch different brands all the time
Right.
because that's not good for them.
Right. Yeah, it's really hard. Like I said, he had the acid reflux, so we were always using like a gentle kind of formula. And what's really weird is that The gentle formula that we were using was very like a generic formula,
Mm-hmm.
which he did better on than like a name brand, which was crazy to me that the generic was better than the name brand stuff.
That's lucky though. Cheaper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah,
It was
that
cheaper
worked.
too, so I'll take it. But health wise, he's done very well. But the only thing was the formula shortage, and then he's had a whole bunch of ear infections.
Oh, the ear infections. I hate them. I hate
Uh
them.
huh. Uh huh.
Because it's like you think that something else is actually wrong and it's just an ear infection and then they can't tell you and yeah. No, we've
Mm-hmm.
had like 3 and we're on the
Now,
verge of
do either one of your kids have tubes?
no, we're on the verge of being sent to ENT.
Oh, really?
Yep. Kason has tubes. They're a love hate relationship, and I'll tell you why. He got tubes in February of this year, so this is a very like new thing for us. He still has had 5 ear infections,
Oh my
Wow.
word.
but the good thing about having the tubes is that the infected ear canal, it actually will like drain out of the ear rather than
Mm-hmm.
just sitting in the ear.
Mm-hmm.
So the ear tubes are still doing their job, but it's still very frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the whole point of him is so that he doesn't get ear infections.
Right. So we're in like summer mode right now, obviously. So ENT was like, he should have less ear infections now because of the weather and everything like that. But if we have 2 more this year, he might need his adenoids removed.
Really?
Yeah. They say
Wow.
once you get tubes and you have 7 ear infections within a year, it could be a different issue.
Can it like what can the ear infections cause a greater issue? Is that why they don't want you to have so many?
Well, yeah. So, well, it's really the hearing loss.
Oh, okay.
Because if you have the recurrent ear infections, all that fluid builds up behind the eardrum, and it
Mm-hmm.
can actually prevent hearing loss,
Or cause hearing loss,
cause hearing
right?
loss. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what they were saying to me about Axel. They're like, that's why they get concerned if you have X amount of ear infections. That's why
Oh.
you go to ENT to stop it.
Right. So yeah, before ENT we had 4 within a 6-month time frame,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Yeah.
Well, and I'm questioning, right? So he had the initial ear infection, which we didn't know right away, and
Right.
then we got put on the antibiotic that didn't beat it, and then it like was still there in one ear, so we got put on a
Uh-huh.
stronger antibiotic that
Yep.
didn't fully beat it.
Mhm.
And then but the third antibiotic beat it. So it's like was it really 3 or was it just this one the whole time and the antibiotic what he just wasn't reacting to it? I don't know.
Right, right. And unfortunately, we found out very early on that Kason is allergic to amoxicillin.
Oh no.
So
And
he
that's the
can't even
first
have the
thing
amoxicillin.
they give.
Right. So he can't even have amoxicillin. It's not like horrible where like he like, has trouble breathing or anything like that. His body reacts like where he has a rash all over his body.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But like obviously being a first time mom, experiencing that is scary. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to put my kid through something like that if I don't have to.
Right.
So instead of the amoxicillin that we've been giving him, it's ceftonir. So it's kind of like
That's what worked for
another.
us. That
Oh
was the
yeah,
third
okay.
one. Yeah, that we used. That's the one that worked for us.
So ceftonir only works sometimes with Kason. I think he's becoming immune to it.
Oh no.
Oh gosh.
So if you go through tubes and you have to get tubes, you don't have to do antibiotics anymore, which is really nice. The only time you have to use antibiotics is if the eardrops that they prescribe you don't work. So after so many days with you giving him the eardrops, if they don't work anymore, then you go get an antibiotic.
Okay.
So that's a nice thing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a whole nother adventure that you've
It
been
is a
through.
whole nother adventure. It really is.
Well, maybe let's jump to our last question here and then we can talk about our mom era. So, what would you say is your hardest and easiest transitions to motherhood?
I would say the hardest one for me, once I gave birth to Kason, I had PPD really bad. My self care went down the toilet. I didn't want to do anything. I was very like, I have to do everything myself, knowing I don't have any support, like, which obviously is not the case, but that's how I felt. So my self care really plummeted. So I wasn't showering correctly. I wasn't, eating correctly. I wasn't taking care of myself
Yeah.
at that point. So Spencer noticed, and I actually was on some medication for a little while. But then it made me sick, and I was like, I'm not taking this if it's going to make me sick. It took a while for me to be like, you matter. Your needs matter. You need
Mm-hmm.
to do what you have to do. The baby will be okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably the hardest part was, you matter too. You need to take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Because
it's
if you
hard to
don't
think
take
of
care of
yourself.
yourself, then your baby will suffer.
Yeah.
So the easiest part, I would say, was caring for him.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was very smooth. I knew what to do. Like if he was crying or if he was tired, I knew. You just have that mom
Yeah,
instinct.
you just know.
So,
Yeah, I love that. I know it's hard. I feel like the PPD is really hard because you're in the midst of like surviving. It's
yeah,
so hard to think about yourself.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And like I felt like I was almost like an inconvenience because with a C-section, you need a lot of help. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't drive, like if you wanted to go anywhere or if you have to shower, like I had a hard time showering myself
Yeah.
once I gave birth to him. And so I would have to have Spencer help me and be like, "Hey, I need to shower. Please come help me get in
Yeah.
and out of the shower." Because he would like have to like pat down like my dressing area and like that kind of stuff. So you're in a very vulnerable state.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, wow, everything that you went through is such an experience, and I hope that it can, help relate to other people that go through similar situations. And even when you do transition into motherhood, it's almost scary, like with what you went through, to think about, okay, how do I do this again? Like it
right,
almost
right,
lingers, right? But we definitely appreciate you sharing your birth story, your TTT story, your infertility story, and
yeah,
just kind of everything with us. And it's very interesting. It's very relatable. I mean, we both related to you in two different ways,
right,
um,
right.
and I think having that support system is just being able to talk about it, like, changes everything. So
It like makes if
Yeah.
there's like a weight that's on your shoulders and it's being lifted, especially with infertility.
Mm-hmm.
It's not talked about a lot. No
yeah.
one talks about it.
And still, to like this day, even though I've gone through it, I've shared it, it's like I had someone ask me last night, when's baby number two coming? And like I told myself for the longest time, be like, oh well, we we're going through infertility, so when it
Yeah,
happens, or when we're ready to go through that whole thing again, I don't
yeah. I mean,
know.
it's another
Whenever we
roller
feel like
coaster
it,
of emotions.
we can,
Yeah,
yeah. But I've gotten that question a lot more now, like, when's baby number two coming, than I did on baby number one. So.
yeah. So people started asking us when baby number two was coming when Kason turned probably about a year and a half, closer to two, and they were like,
Mhm.
"Oh, so when are we gonna have another one?" And it's like, okay, I don't want to be rude to you, but like I struggle with infertility and so does my husband. So for us it's 10 times harder to try
Mhm.
and conceive a baby than anybody else.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
have to go through all the emotions again with going through infertility and trying to have another baby.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Sounds like Axel's
He's throwing his
getting. He's
food.
okay. Okay, we can wrap this up. Let's just talk about our mom era really quick. Rachel, do you want to start? What mom era are
Yeah,
you in?
sure. So the mom era that I'm currently in is the why phase. So
Mhm.
we're constantly in this phase right now is why? Why?
I love
What are you doing, mama? And it's like, can you give me 2 minutes? Just 2 minutes because
Yeah.
I love you, but go find some toys to play with, okay?
Yeah.
And like there's times I'm like I keep answering him and he's like, "Oh, I didn't expect her to go this long." Okay. We're also very in the independent stage of life right now where we want to do everything by ourselves, which
Oh
is
yeah.
fine, wonderful. Do things by yourself, but sometimes you need to ask for help. And
Yeah.
so we're kind of do you need help? No, I do it by myself. Okay, well, if you need help, mom and dad will help you. And then we're also in potty training.
Ooh.
Ooh.
It's a big
He
one.
he does very well with going pee on the toilet. Very, very well for being almost 2.5, which I was very surprised. We got to get number 2 down because
Yeah.
that's a struggle.
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
Yeah, you'll have to give us all your tips and
I
tricks.
will.
'Cause
'Cause we'll be right behind you.
Yeah.
it's definitely, you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, it's not going to work.
Mhm.
And little goodies like stickers
Yeah.
and, like, I call it a treasure box. Little stuff that you find at the dollar store or whatever, make a whole little box. So if they, go poop on the toilet, you
Mhm.
get to pick a prize.
Yeah, positive reinforcement.
Yeah. That's what I've found that has worked so far.
Oh, good. Good.
Alyssa, what about you?
I am in my survival mom era. I'm just surviving at this point. We now climb off of the changing table
Uh huh.
naked. We'll walk around the house. I literally took his clothes off for him to go to the bathroom or to go into the tub, which is the next door over from his bedroom. He stops in
Uh
the
huh.
middle of the hallway, pees on the floor. And now he's walking. And so he just kind
Oh.
of like literally all I want to do is just walk and I have to just follow him around. He'll just lead me. And so I'm just
Mm-hmm.
chasing a toddler around.
in the thick of toddlerhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Mine, man, there's been so much that's been going on, but I would say the like most prevalent thing that really makes me laugh recently is Eleanor's doing this thing. So she's a fantastic talker, and she's been doing this thing lately where she adds like Y to everything. So I'll point and there'll be like a mouse, right? She'll be like mousy, or she'll point to something at her house. We have like a little playhouse, and she'll call it her housey, and everything ends in a Y,
Uh
and it's
huh.
the cutest thing. And I just want to like capture it forever. And she started calling me mommy because it was always mama.
And it's a love hate relationship, isn't it?
Hmm.
I like it. I think mommy's cute.
When he went from mama to mommy, I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. I was
Yeah.
not expecting this yet.
I wasn't expecting it either. Like, cause we don't say mommy very often, and like it was something she just kind of
Picked up.
adapted on her own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the stage we're in. I freaking love her to death. She's hilarious, and the Ys are just like are so cute. And me and Rob are trying to do this thing right now where we're creating like a video diary of how she says a lot of her words because they
Oh,
change so
they
quickly.
do.
Like Blanky started as buh, and then it was ba- and it just like so now it's binky, binky, binky. So we're trying to like catch those little transitions because they're so quick and they're so cute. But
Yes.
I would say the Y at the end is our current era.
Your current mom era. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of the Mom Era podcast. We are so excited that Rachel was able to join us this week. If you have any questions for Rachel or for us, feel free to reach out to us on social media at momera_podcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Rachel. It was so great to
Yeah.
have you.
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed it. This is my first
Yeah.
ever podcast, so
Woo!
I hope I did
Woo, it
okay.
went awesome.
Happy to be your first.
Yes, yes. I was very excited.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll talk to you guys later. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye.